Hey, Internet! Welcome to Friday! So it's Friday here in Paris. Friday's a good day, generally, in my book. You can decide how you feel about Friday yourself, but I'm just going to be kind of positive about the day of the week today. So let's get started. Today, being it Friday, what I've sort of been thinking about is some of the things that I've been learning or reflecting over the week. One of which is the sort of varieties of lessons or thoughts or thought lenses that you can abstract from something like programming or the study and learning of programming. So I wanted to talk about one of those abstractions or sort of like one of those insights or working hypotheses that I've personally had over the last week while studying object-oriented programming, more specifically Ruby and the MVC model, which has been both a lot of fun, a lot of work, and a fair amount of stress. But let's jump into things. So the abstraction or lesson that I've been thinking about this morning is sort of the different thought mechanisms or just different ways of thinking that a different person can have, and the way that those thought or thinking mechanisms, like the sort of approaches to looking at problems or understanding and processing information or data, might be influenced by how you experienced it academically before. If you were in school, maybe you were like me and you studied the humanities, some foreign languages, or maybe you're like me and you studied business because the world always could use some more business people. Wink, wink. No, but on a more serious note, I was sort of exposed to this like broad swath of thoughts and philosophies and approaches to understanding the world. But on my own accord, I sort of developed this non-linear way of thinking. So sort of my tendency, as you may notice from some of these videos, is I really like the association between ideas. So if you take something like the MBT, the Myers-Briggs framework, and you go to the second condition, I'm like super N, meaning like I really like the association between the ideas rather than the specific details. And so that's, I guess, just like really good to know. But this sort of lends itself well towards non-linear thinking, meaning rather than go from point A to point B to point C to point D, you might go from A to D, D back to A, then to C, then to B, then you'll just jump to Z because, that was an easy transition, at least in your head. And I think you can sort of get some like really interesting insights or thoughts or sort of like interplays between the different ideas that you might have. But it can both be hard for you to follow, but definitely for outside parties to follow. And so if you take something like this exposure to the humanities, and sort of looking at the intersection of different ideas and like different disciplines and how they like interplay with one another, and then you take my own tendency of being super nonlinear, once you map on sort of the art or science of programming, which is based, I think, at least initially, a lot on logic and a set of rules that have been defined by the people who sort of created the different programming languages, in my case Ruby. It can have some super interesting results, for example, personal growth. But I've really been enjoying and then sometimes struggling with the necessity to think in a more logical, planned out way. Because when you sort of just write code, as I might think, stream of consciously, it doesn't always work, which is totally fine. But one of the reasons that I've really enjoyed programming is because it's like this first exposure to a different way of thinking. It's sort of this mechanism that really challenges me to, sorry, an alarm just went off. It was very alarming. I'm going to be late for class probably, but this video is really fun to record, so I'm just going to keep doing that. But it's just a sort of forcing mechanism, or this major challenge to think in a way that's different than how I have been exposed to and sort of taught in the past. So I guess the synthesis of this video is that similar to yesterday, there's some abstractions or things that you can learn around the area of studying something like programming. And for me, one of the major takeaways is this exposure to a new form of thought or a new discipline, and the logic and systematic thinking that lends itself to programming. Whereas, at least when you're learning the basics and sort of the fundamentals of programming, you kind of need to be logical and more linear than maybe. Ooh, a delivery van. Ooh, I wish I could flip it over. I don't know how to flip it over the video. It's not technically savvy. Studying programming, you can't even use an iPhone. Like, what does that say about me as the person? Or what does it say about whoever designed an iPhone? Like, I don't know. Either way, I'll probably leave you all with that note. And I'll catch you later. Feel free to leave comments. Really mean ones are welcome, but less than mean ones are encouraged. So you make your own choices in life, and we'll catch you later. Cheers.